I've worked on this video for a month now and I'm too tired to even make an intro. Not gonna waste your time, you've already read the title, so let's begin. If you hold Ctrl while using the Move tool, you can turn Auto Select on to select the layers you want. You can also hold Ctrl and Shift to select multiple layers. By holding Ctrl and dragging, you can select the layers that are in your selection. You can copy the layers by pressing Ctrl J. Another way is to drag them while holding the Alt key. You can also copy the layers by pressing Ctrl C and Ctrl V. This works between all your projects. This time, after copying a layer, press Ctrl, Shift and V to paste it in the same place. Wherever you right-click on the screen with the Move tool, you can see the list of layers in that place. Hold down the Alt key and click on the eye next to the layers, and all layers except the one you've selected will be disabled. If you do it again, you can have them like the way they were. If you hold down the Alt key and click on a layer, you can zoom on it faster and see it in full screen. While using the brush tool, if you hold down the Alt key and right click at the same time, you can change the brush size by sweeping left or right, and up and down to change the hardness of it. While using any tool, you can temporarily switch to hand tool by holding down the spacebar. When you're zoomed in, by holding down the H key and clicking, you can see your whole project and go to another area. When using the zoom tool, you can switch between zoom in and out by holding down the Alt key. To zoom with the animation, click and hold with the zoom tool. If it didn't work, enable the zoom animated option from here. If you enable a scrubby zoom, you can zoom in by dragging to the right and zoom out by dragging to the left. While using any tool, hold down the Alt key and scroll up to zoom in and scroll down to zoom out. You can also zoom in on larger numbers if you hold down the Shift key. By double-clicking on the zoom tool, you can see your project in its original size, and if you double-click on the hand tool, you can see it in fit screen mode. The Ctrl 1 and Ctrl 0 keys are the shortcuts to this trick. Another simple way to move and zoom the page is to use the Navigator panel. By pressing the X key, you can switch between your colors. After changing the colors, you can reset them to their original state by pressing the D key. You can deselect your selected area by pressing Ctrl D. When you are creating a new shape or selection, you can change its location by holding down the spacebar. You can specify the color of the transparent section by clicking on Edit and selecting Transparency from the Preferences section. You can change the color of your layers in the Layers panel. I had a website where I used to have my online courses about making videos like this, graphic design and things like that. I'm not making any content for it anymore. I left it to become a YouTuber, so if this doesn't work, I'm just but it has to work. I don't want to go back to that. I just don't. You can shift click on the mask to disable it. You can invert your mask by pressing Ctrl I. A quick way for creating a clipping mask is to hold Alt and click between two layers. You can group layers by pressing Ctrl G and ungroup them with Ctrl Shift G. By clicking on the Modify option from the Select menu, you can make your selection bigger or smaller. If you right-click on the thumbnail of your layers, you can change their size. To edit text layers, you can press Ctrl Enter or double-click on them with the Move tool. When you've selected several layers, you can change all their settings from the Properties panel. If you double click on this icon in the corner of the shape layers, you can change their color. If you hold down the Alt key and click on a mask, you can see it in a bigger size and edit it more easily. By dragging, you can move the layer styles between your layers. By holding down the Alt key and dragging layer styles, you can copy them to other layers. You can also see the copy layer style and paste layer style options here too. If you hold down the Ctrl key and click on the thumbnail of a layer, you can select its content. If you click on a path with the Type tool, you'd be able to write on it. When renaming layers, you can go to the previous or next layers with the Tab or Tab Shift key. By selecting the Arrange option from the window menu, you can change the display mode of the tabs. When writing a text, if you hold down the Ctrl key, you can change the size and shape of the text. By pressing Ctrl, Shift, Alt and E, you can create a merged layer from all of your layers. When using the pen tool, if you hold down the Alt key and click on a point, you can delete the curvature of the next line. You can rotate the page by pressing the R key. One of the fastest ways for exporting is to use the Quick Export option. By selecting Export in the Preferences section, you can change the format of the Quick Export option. With Ctrl-H, you can hide your selection and guides. With the Pattern Preview option, you can see your design in pattern mode and create it more easily. When you are on a layer, you can change the opacity by pressing the numbers on your keyboard. Next part is a bit different. I had so much fun making it and I hope you like it. When you're on the brush tool, you can change its opacity with the numbers on your keyboard. Holding Shift also changes the flow. Once you've created a shape with the pen tool, you can add it to the Photoshop shapes with the defined custom shape option. If you click and drag on the ruler, you can place guidelines on your screen. If you come here in the Preferences section, you can allocate more RAM to Photoshop. In the Keyboard Shortcut section, you can see the complete list of shortcut keys and change any of them. Once you've selected several layers, you can right-click and select the Link Layers option to link them together. This way, when you move one layer, the other one moves along with it. The Ctrl, Shift, Alt and T keys repeat the last transform you did in a new layer. With the Scripts option from the File menu, you can delete all empty layers of your project. If you click on this icon below the toolbar, you can customize your tools. To use the smart filters, convert your layers to a smart object before applying any filter. You can switch between tabs with Ctrl Tab and Ctrl Shift Tab. By holding Ctrl space, you can temporarily bring the zoom tool. If you release it, it goes back to the last tool you were using. By clicking this option, you can delete the list of recently opened files. By right-clicking on each layer, you can copy its CSS code. With the Save for Web option, you can save your images with a smaller size. When selecting blend modes, you can select faster with the up and down arrows. If you want to see the shape of your brush, press Caps Lock. You can change the color of all guidelines in Photoshop. Before changing the size of a layer, convert it to a smart object, so that if you regret and wanted to return it to its original size, its quality wouldn't be lost. If you click on Summarize button here, you can save an HTML page from the list of all shortcuts. If you right-click around the page, you can change its color. You can change the text spacing by holding down Alt and pressing any of the left or right arrow keys. From here, you can customize the menus and hide the ones that you don't need. You can also change the color of each menu from here to find them more easily. If the Properties panel opens up by itself when you create a shape, you can disable it from here. I have nothing else to say, so enjoy watching the rest of the video. If you disable the scrubby zoom option, you can choose the selection for zoom in. You can temporarily go to Move tool by holding down the Control key. With the spelling check option, you can find the text errors. If you hold down the Shift key while moving the layers, they will move in a straight line. If you make a selection and press Ctrl J, it copies the same part at the same place in a new layer. To disable Reach tooltips, come to this section. By clicking on this icon, you can disable and enable the link between the layer and the mask. If you hold the Shift key while selecting or creating a shape, the width and height will stay the same. And if you hold down Alt, it will create the shape from where you've clicked. Now with holding both keys, you can make a selection with the same width and height at the same point. Clicking on the new layer icon creates a new layer above the selected one. Hold down Ctrl if you want it to be created at the bottom. If you hold down the Shift key and click on the Tab Close icon, all tabs will be closed. You can subtract from your selection by holding down the Alt key and add to it by holding down the Shift. When you are in transform mode, you can change the type of it by right-clicking. By enabling the Delete Crop Pixels option, you can remove the crop parts from your layer. With Backspace Alt, you can give the first color to your layer, and with Backspace Ctrl, you can add the second color. By holding down the Ctrl or Alt key and pushing the bracket keys, you can select and move your layers. Here you can see Photoshop symmetry options for painting. You can change the ruler unit by right-clicking on it. If you go to the new guide layout section and put number 2 on these two options, it exactly marks the middle of your page with the guidelines. By selecting layers and using the Export As option, you can save each layer separately. If you import a video into Photoshop, you can edit it with the Timeline panel. With the Brush Define and Pattern Define options, you can create your own brush and pattern. Whenever you hold the Shift key, you can change the options faster and move them easier. With the Backspace Shift buttons, you can open the Fill section and see these options. As an example, I can select an area, press Backspace Shift, and use Content Aware on this part of my image. In Photoshop, you cannot use as many of these options as you want, and they are limited. If you want more again, one trick is to make a copy of your layer, set the fill to 0, and enable any of these options again. I'm sure you already know this, but if you go to Edit Toolbar and then hold Shift and click on the Done button, you can see this icon here.